afternoon, fellow constitutionalists, and welcome to the Monday edition of the Dan Clements Show, a Christian political talk show. I'm your host, Dan Clements, your constitutional warrior, fighting for your right just to be an American. It is October 2nd, year of our Lord 2017. Remember, we're a hyphen-free, PC-free zone. God is still in control, and He does love you. And I'm broadcasting live from the Hemlock Studios here in the frosty central Susquehanna Valley in the great Keystone State. Folks, honestly, I hate waking up on mornings like this, and it's not just because it's a Monday morning. I woke up, got my daughter ready, and turned on the news after I did my Bible reading this morning, and was greeted with the news about the mass shooting out in Las Vegas. And it's heartbreaking when you hear news like this, because there's 50 souls that were sent to meet their maker, as it were. And there's probably going to be more. There's a lot of folks in critical condition from this shooting. By all intents and purposes, from all the videos I saw and heard, the perpetrator who shot himself, we'll get into that a little bit here, was using a fully automatic weapon. We don't know a lot about the shooter. We don't know a lot about all the situations that are surrounding this. But there's a lot of speculation going on. I love going on to social media and see all the responses to everything that's going on. And it amazes me how many people out there know exactly what's going on and don't have any clue of what's going on. I'm sharing with you what the news is sharing with me, and probably you've already seen, and giving you my insight on it, and not as far as motives or anything, but some other things that are going on that are periphery to this, the politicization or the politicizing of this event. And you know, I've been following these type of things, and I've been doing this news commentary program since late 2007, and it never seems to fail. After a mass shooting, the first words that come out of people's mouth are to politicize the mass, politicize the whole thing, and it sickens me. It sickens me that people are going to this rather than concentrating on the families. My heart and my prayers go out to the families, the families of the victims, those that are dead and those that are in the hospital. That's just as traumatic. Maybe not as much, but almost as traumatic, waiting beside the bed of a loved one and you're not sure if they're going to survive or not. I lost a loved one, not to violence. It was to an accident, my twin sister back in 1982. And, it was hard to take, and I've also been beside the bed of a loved one, as they were passing away. It's hard to take. It's hard to go through that, folks. So my cautionary tale here is to stop the speculating. I know we live in this social media world where the people feel the need to have to say something. And a lot of these folks, they don't do this. This is my job. This is what I chose to try to support my family with. Broadcasting on YouTube and Blog Talk Radio. This is my job to commentate on this, but it's not my job to speculate, especially on something like this. Now, you look at these other mass shootings, the Pulse nightclub, Sandy Hook, some of these other, Columbine. Years later, we have all the evidence that we can compile, that the police and investigators can compile to look to motives and everything else, and we can make a reasonable assumption of why they did what they did. We may never get to 100%, just like this man who was, this Stephen Paddock is the guy's name. We may never know his total reasons why he did what he did. I was going back and forth in show prep here. I had a whole different show prep for today until I woke up this morning, and I'm like, oops, we got to change gears here. And I don't mean to laugh about that, that we have to change gears. I'm laughing because, I had planned something, and, in the grand scheme of things, the best laid plans of mice and men often go astray. And so we re-geared this. I titled the show today, Las Vegas Shooting. It's a heart, not a gun thing. As with most of the murders that go on in the United States, I have some stats I want to share with you. I know this is a tragedy, and I don't want to jump the gun and get too far ahead of things, but I do need to respond to some of the accusations and criticism that's going on out there on the internet, and why we're not as upset about gun violence elsewhere as we are on this one shooting at a Jason Aldean. Now, Jason Aldean, he's a pretty good country singer. I'm not really big on his music because it's more modern, more pop than it is country for me, but that's just me. But it happened at a Jason Aldean concert, and it was during the concert and with the music blaring, and it sounded like firecrackers popping off in the background until people realized that people were bleeding next to them, and then everybody trying to get out of the stadium. More people were hurt. We don't know what the numbers are. We may not know for days how many of the people were hurt that are in the hospital now with gunshots and how many were hurt by being trampled. You know, those numbers will come out eventually, but he was in a hotel room high up on this hotel room. I can't remember what floor they said he was on, but he had a sniper's eye view of the concert and unloading a fully automatic weapon with a crowd that dense. You know, it's like shooting fish in a barrel. And he was bound to hit somebody sometime. And this is me personally. You know, my heart goes out to the Paddock family that that one of their relatives had done this. And this, a lot of times, and this is wrong too, a lot of times, a lot of anger is pointed at the family of these gunmen. Whoever the perpetrators are of these mass shootings, a lot of times the anger goes towards the family also. And I don't agree with that. You know, they had nothing to do with that, the family, unless it was proven that they supported him and angst him on or something like that. But more times than not, the family has very little to do with it. You know, now the Sandy Hook, let me go back real quick here and talk about that. How the mother didn't know that the son was doing what he was doing. You know, and I said this before on a program years ago when that happened. To me, that's bad parenting. How could the mother not know that the son was planning what he was planning and getting the weapons ready and stuff like that? He was in her house. You know, and I talked about this years ago. I don't want to rehash that too much in that, but you know, I don't want to throw anger against somebody or accusations against somebody that are unfounded. You know, for all intents and purposes, what we see here right now, this was a lone wolf. There's a lot of people out there on social media right now. Let me just get over to that. Let's see here. Right now, ISIS... this is on my Twitter feed for the Dan Clements Show. ISIS had threatened Las Vegas in May. They're talking about it possibly being, you know, this guy converted to Islam, you know, a month or so ago. That, again, we don't know. None of this is actually confirmed other than ISIS. And you know, ISIS threatens a lot of cities throughout America. And that there's another one about gun control now. Las Vegas shooting raises questions of gun control again. Again, people are still in the hospital, struggling for their lives, and we want to politicize this already. This is on social media. This is on Twitter. This is not my feed. I went over and looked at, like, you know, you can go over and see what's trending, and this is absolutely trending today. It just... I got this one here. I just want to show you here real quick. It says, it's gun control now, USA. The NRA is wrong on guns and wrong for America. NRA protects guns over children. It's more profitable. Proud to be blocked by the NRA, the American heartland. Again, I just want to say this about this. This is the wrong time to talk about gun control. And again, that's why I titled the show, It's a Heart Thing, Not a Gun Thing. It's a heart thing that's going on here. And again, I have this here by Julianne Moore. She's an actress. I believe this is the actress. Today we mourn Las Vegas. Tomorrow we fight for them. Join the movement to end gun violence. And again, how do you do that? How do you end gun violence and not address the underlying base issues that would cause or make or allow a person to go out and do this? Before I get into Bible reading, I got to say this, folks. I really got to say this. We live in a culture of death here in the United States of America. We have sent over 60 million babies to meet their maker prematurely. Killed these babies in the womb. There are states that have passed euthanasia laws. I think Oregon and Washington State and a couple other ones, allowing assisted suicide, as it were, of elderly folks. And we need to debate that. Honestly, folks, I don't think there's a debate on killing babies in the womb. If you support the killing of innocent babies in the womb, you support murder. I don't think there's a debate about that anymore. Go over to euthanasia. If someone's intent on taking their lives, they're going to do it. But I don't think the state should be involved in assisting into that. I just don't. And whether a loved one assists in someone's suicide, as far as, a husband, wife, something like that, I'm torn about that because, again, it's a heart issue. I don't want to see my wife suffer, but I don't think I could bring myself to help her commit suicide. And I don't think she could with me either. Our video games. To do what I'm doing here right now on the show, to have a production computer set up where I can produce the show on it, all the video pieces. I have my video clips in this open broadcast server on one computer. I have another computer over here that does nothing but stream and record the audio, because I always put a digital audio copy up on Blog Talk Radio, because for whatever reason, if you use Blog Talk Radio, their audio recording devices, they stink. So right after the show, I upload a digital copy that's so crisp and clear, it's fantastic, of the live broadcast here. But I had to do that over on the gaming sites, because it seemed to me only the gaming sites were doing this. Very few other sites were actually showing you how to do this. And so I could not believe the amount of violent games over there. Now, whether you equate the violence of games or not with killings and just social unrest and stuff like that, as far as people being aggressive in that, I don't know if they've ever found a total link to that at all. However, I just go back to the book of Jeremiah. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Whatever we put our minds to, that's what we are. If we're talking about Hugh Hefner, passed away last week. My short Bible lesson today is Sister to Sister, Hefner, A Life of Instant Heaven for an Eternal Hell by Cindy Cowley. And I have the link into that article there. It's a hard thing. If you struggle or are addicted to pornography, that's not only a physical, mental addiction that you have to deal with, it's also a heart thing that you have to deal with. If you want to be a certain way in life, I'm a Christian. I'm a New Testament Christian. I make no bones about it. I'm also here to tell you I'm not perfect in that. I'm not a perfect Christian. I'm a forgiven Christian, but I'm not a perfect Christian. And I struggle with things. And yeah, I do struggle with pornography. And it is prolific out there on the internet. It is prolific out there. I struggle with that. And I struggle with other things too. But my point is, part of my struggle with pornography is my heart. Is my heart and my mind in the right place? I remember Rusty Stark years ago. He was a preacher at the Susquehanna Valley Church of Christ. I remember him years ago. He gave us a really good lesson. He put a couple circles up there, and they were sort of crossed over with each other. And on one side I had the world, and the other side I had God, and we were sort of in the middle there. And the more we put God into our hearts and minds, the God circle moves further and further to cover over the world circle. We have less of the world in us. And so, yeah, it's a heart thing. What happened out in Las Vegas was a heart thing. What happens with most all these mass shootings is a heart thing. Now, is there mental illness involved in that too? Yeah, there could be. I think it's I think it's a very insane thing to commit murder. To actually go out and premeditatedly commit murder, kill somebody. I think you're doing one of the most insane human acts you can do. Now, I'm not saying that they can use that for an insanity offense, but I think there's got to be something mentally wrong with you if you think it's okay. It's like all these gangsters out there and these thugs and these gangs and stuff like that think it's okay just to go around killing each other or killing people that don't pay them for protection and that. I think a little bit of that's mental, but I think a whole lot of that's heart. You know, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. So we're going to talk about this a little bit today, and you're going to be hearing me talk about this is a heart thing, this is a heart thing, this is a heart thing, because it is. It is a heart thing. It's a heart mind. You know, the two greatest commandments. Love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy strength, and all thy mind. And the second is like that. Love your neighbor as yourself. On these two things hangs all the law of the prophets. It's a mind and it's a heart thing, folks. Always has been, always will be. Always has been and always will be. Today's show is being brought to you by Sears Part Direct. They're an affiliate marketer of mine. And they've allowed me to put these links up onto my show notes page over at the DanClementsShow.com. Are you the handyman of the house? Are you the handy person? Because I know some women that work on these things too. You got power equipment you need to fix. I upkeep a generator, a snow thrower, a lawn tractor, a push mower, those type of things. And a lot of the times I need a part, it's just easier for me to go on to SearsPartDirect.com, go on the computer, order it, and get it sent to my house. The parts always fit. And I can get my equipment up and running for what I need to do. And you bet your bottom dollar that I'll be checking out the snowblower here probably end of October, early November, just to make sure it's running. Change the oil out, change the gas out, dump the gas out, put fresh gas in. I always use, just as a side note, folks, I always put stabilizer in my gas. But, I maintain my power equipment. And if I need parts, I go to Sears Parts Direct, and you can too. And if you go over to the DanClementsShow.com and click on the Parts Direct widget, when you place your order, there's an offer code on that widget that you can see and use. It's a 5-digit number. You put that in and give you 10% off all your purchases. Can't beat that, folks. And usually the 10% will more than cover your shipping and handling if you don't need it there right away. So get your honey-do list out and see what you need to fix and get those pieces of power equipment fixed for you. Today's daily Bible reading comes from Matthew chapter 28, verses 18 through 20. And Jesus came and spoke to them, saying, all authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. Go therefore make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all things I have commanded you, and lo, I'm with you always, even unto the end of the age. Today's quote meal comes from William Shedd. A ship in a harbor is safe, but that is not what ships are built for. Think about your Christian life. Think about what we're supposed to be doing as Christians. And again, the short Bible lesson I already gave you is Sister to Sister, Hefner, A Life of Instant Heaven for an Eternal Hell by Cindy Cowley over at thecowleyhouse.org. And she's related to Ben Gisselback, and you hear me talk about him at plainsimplefaith.org. All right. Let's get into this. Let me get back over here and get things set up. Folks, these type episodes are hard for me. They're really hard for me because I want to jump in and give you my opinion on every little thing, but I don't have all the information. And I think if you're going to listen to people and value their opinions have to be informed. And we've talked about this on the show many, many times. There's a lot of people out there that have a lot of opinions, but a lot of those opinions that are out there are ill-informed or not informed at all. They're just what people think or feel. And they're not based on anything. They're based usually very subjectively on their feelings, how a certain subject makes them feel. And this is a problem in our society today, folks, that we form these opinions so quickly without knowing all the facts. Now, what do we know so far out in Las Vegas? This happened last night. There's at least 50 dead. And they're saying somewhere upwards of 400 others that are injured. One of the major hospitals there cannot take any more patients there at capacity. They're sending them to other hospitals around the area. I don't know if they're going to set up makeshift hospitals like Army hospitals there to help take care of the overflow. I don't know anything about that. We're too early in the game, as it were, right now, and we don't really know. But what we do know is a gunman turned a Las Vegas concert into a killing field Sunday night from his perch on the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino, using at least 10 guns to rain down a steady stream of fire, murdering at least 50 people and injuring more than 400 others in the deadliest mass shooting in modern United States history. The suspect, who died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound, was identified as 64-year-old Stephen Paddock, a resident of Mesquite, Nevada. Police initially sought a woman believed to be Paddock's roommate, Marlo Danley, as a person of interest. Detectives later made contact with her and do not believe she is involved in the shooting on the Strip. And folks, real quick here, this is a Fox News report. Clark County Sheriff Joseph Lombardo said an excess of 10 rifles was found in the room, but did not immediately reveal a motive. Paddock had been in a hotel room since September 28th. And that was last Thursday, folks, according to Lombardo. Authorities said 2 on-duty Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department officers were injured during the shooting. One is in stable condition after surgery. The other sustained minor injuries. 2 off-duty police officers attending the concert were killed. President Trump said the mass shooting was an act of pure evil and praised first responders in an address to the nation. Now, I want to stop the reading right here. There's been comments. I showed you some of the Twitter feeds there that President Trump hasn't condemned this as a terrorist act. And this is me personally. I think we throw that term terrorist around too loosely to describe everything. I mean, this was a mass shooting. And yeah, I mean, if you want to get down to a simplified definition of terror, this was terrifying for the people down there, but was that his intent to terrorize Las Vegas? If this, and this is why I say this, folks. If it turns out that he was a lone gunman, that there's reports out there saying he might be with ISIS, he might have converted to Islam. Hopefully we'll find these things out here shortly. But let's just say, for just this argument here, that he was turned out to be a lone wolf. You can't, in my opinion, you can't call that terrorism because he turned around and killed himself. And if he's not part of an organization, the terror ended with his death. The reign of terror, as it were. It's not like ISIS. It has a worldwide organization. It has operatives here in the United States and probably in just about any other Western cultured country in the world. And so to condemn President Trump for him not saying that this is a terrorist attack, again, it's too early to tell. People are politicizing this to the extreme right now. If you go over to Twitter and look at the trendings and go read through some of them comments, and this is just like any other mass shooting in America. This was just like Charlottesville. That was so politicized so quickly, it wasn't funny, before all the facts were known. So, article goes on, to the families of the victims, we are praying for you and we are here for you, Trump said, adding that he'll visit Las Vegas on Wednesday to meet with first responders and families. The gunman who fired down on Route 91 Harvest Festival from a room on the 32nd floor of Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino died from self-inflicted gunshot wounds just as police made entry into the room, according to LVMPD Under Sheriff Kevin McMahail. Federal law enforcement sources told Fox News that Paddock was known to local authorities in Vegas, and multiple weapons were found in his hotel room in the gold-colored glass skyscraper. At this time, federal officials do not see any connection to international terrorism, and little is known about Paddock's motivation, sources say. The Islamic State terror group took credit for the Las Vegas shooting, saying that gunmen converted to Islam months ago, but provided no evidence to back up the claim. And this is where people are jumping to the conclusions here. Well, he was a terrorist. You know, the ISIS said. How much credence you put in with what ISIS said, other than we're going to kill you? I mean, they've proven that time and time again that they're being truthful. When they say they want to kill us, take them at their word that they want to kill us. The gunman's brother, Eric Paddock, told reporters outside his Central Florida home early Monday, an asteroid just fell on us, and said Stephen Paddock had no history of mental illness. Paddock said his brother is just a guy, and he freaked and had retired to Vegas because he liked gambling. The Department of Homeland Security said Monday morning that the department is closely monitoring and helping partners investigate the tragedy, but at this time, they have no information to indicate a specific credible threat involving other public venues in the country. Attorney General Jeff Sessions spoke with Sheriff Lombardo, offering his full support. Department of Justice officials told Fox News. Sessions said in a statement he met with FBI Director Christopher Wray early Monday morning. And there were just a couple of pictures there about people scrambling or to scramble for shelter, and just assisting with the wounded and stuff. It's terrible what's going on out there. To many families, those whose lives have been changed forever by this heinous act, we offer you our prayers and our promise that we will do everything in our power to get justice for your loved one, Sessions said in a statement. Now, again, if this turns out to be a lone wolf act and he was not part of an organization, the guy just snapped and went off his rocker, there's not a whole lot that anybody can do. I mean, justice has been served if it is a lone wolf. If it isn't, then yeah, we'll go after other people, hopefully. But if it turns out to be a lone wolf, there's no more justice that can be sought for the families. All that can be done is comforting and just help them, deal with the tragedy that happened in their lives. Authorities first received calls about the active shooting at 10:08 p.m. Country music star Jason Aldean was performing at the Route 91 Festival when the gunfire erupted. Aldean was performing his last song of the night. Initially, those in the audience said that they thought the sounds was firecrackers, but as the shots continued, Aldean stopped singing. Some concert goers could be heard yelling to each other to get down. One witness told KSVN that he heard hundreds of shots. The gunfire was rapid and reportedly confused with firecrackers. It sounded like a machine gun, one vendor told Fox News. It sounded like more than one machine gun. Authorities said law enforcement swarmed the hotel and killed the gunman in a room on the 32nd floor. Responding officers used an explosive device to force the door open to the room. Country singer Jake Owen, who performed before Aldean, told Fox News the gunfire was nonstop. You couldn't tell where it was coming from. It was loud and nonstop. Some concert goers stayed behind to offer help to those around them. Everybody I saw breathing, I helped, a concert goer told Fox News. Kodiak Yazzie, 36, said the music stopped temporarily and started up again before another round of pops sent the performers ducking for cover and fleeing the stage. It was the craziest stuff I've ever seen in my life, Yazzie told the Associated Press. You could hear the noise was coming from the west of us, from Mandalay Bay, but you couldn't see a flash, or you could see a flash, he said. You could actually see the gunfire. And there's 40,000 fans there, folks. I mean, that was a huge concert. And, and my heart goes out to the families, but thank God it wasn't any worse than what it was. I mean, it could have been a whole lot worse. I say that, just to put that out there. It's not comforting to the families who lost a loved one or has a loved one in the hospital. I'm just saying there was 40,000 fans there. Yazzie took cover and said he saw flashes, a light coming from the Mandalay Bay tower high above. Another concert goer told the Las Vegas Review-Journal the shots sounded like fireworks, and she hid in a sewer. Retired FBI special agent and former national FBI spokesman John Lanarelli, who drove past the scene of the event just moments before the shooting took place, told Fox News the massacre was obviously well planned. Lanarelli added the gunman used expensive guns and ammunition. I have a hard time with some of these Italian names. I do apologize for folks. Lanarelli told the FBI and police are going to speak with every friend and relative and are conducting forensic reviews of the suspects' computers and phones. The FBI is asking anyone with videos and photos concerning Las Vegas attack to call, and the number is 800-225-5324. The shooting, and this was a sold-out concert too, and all these facts are coming out here. This was the worst mass shooting in U.S. modern history. 49 people were killed when a gunman opened fire at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando in June 2016. Sunday's shooting comes from more than 4 months after a suicide bombing at the Arena Grande concert in Manchester, England, that killed 22 people. Almost 90 people were killed by gunmen inspired by Islamic State terror groups at the Bataclan Concert Hall in Paris during the performance of the Eagles' death metal in November 2015. And the reason why I read the bottom part of this is because of the gun control and all these other folks out there that are saying now's the time to start taking guns, now's the time to have a reasonable conversation with gun control in Paris. I just want to go back to Paris and England, but Paris, those were guns. There weren't bombs. I mean, I think there was a couple of them, but most of the killings were done with bombs. 90 people were killed by gunmen inspired by Islamic State terrorists. In a country, in a country that has some of the strictest gun control laws in the EU. England. You know, there was a bomb at the Arena Grande concert in Manchester just months ago. They killed 22 people. I just put that in there to give folks a little perspective about the whole thing. And it's, again, it amazes me that the smoke literally has not cleared. The body count is probably still climbing. I haven't really, I'm just going to go over here to Google News and just type something in here real quick, just to see what's some of the latest news on this. It takes a second to get over there. Now they have the number up to 58 people that have died because of gunshot wounds, are dead after the gunman attack. That's being reported by NPR News. And there's, like I said, it keeps going. It literally keeps going and going and going. It doesn't seem like there's going to be an end to this anytime soon. I'm going to bring this up on the main computer over at my production computer here for you, and let you see the top news. In case you're wondering what's going on here, Las Vegas shooting update: at least 58 people are dead after gunmen in concert. I'll just get over there real quick. Takes a couple seconds for this to fill in. This morning, 58 deaths, police say, in the mass shooting and panic that ensued. 515 people were injured. That number actually keeps climbing up here. So we see here that it's like it's a nightmare that's going to go on for a little while, folks. It really does. So the total right now is up to 58. That's what they're reporting. They have an opinion piece in the Washington Post about this is the deadliest mass shooting in modern U.S. history. How should we talk about it? Earlier they had they had an article here about America's deadliest shooting incidents are getting much more deadly, and it's by Philip Bump over at the Washington Post. It was posted today. And the thing I wanted to point out about this particular thing is he didn't say modern history, although he only goes back a few years on this. And let me see. Let me get over here and get a new tab going here for you. I'll just bring that up. The article I was talking about here. It talks about this mass shooting here, and then he goes down. He has his graph here. He talks about the deadliest mass or spree shootings in U.S. history. And he's talking U.S. history, but he only goes back to 1940. Only goes back to 1940, and I just want to put something out there about this. I have an article. You can go read it on the show notes page. It's called "Wounded Knee Massacre." And there was estimates between 250 and 300 people killed, massacred at Wounded Knee. And that was including women and children. And I've read a lot of these articles over the years after these mass shootings, and this is one thing they never put in there. Now, I don't want to take away from the Las Vegas mass shooting at all. I don't want. That's not my point. My point is these things are being politicized to the point to where we want to forget history and forget some of the evils that were done here in America. You know, here in America, you know, at Wounded Knee, the massacre at Wounded Knee. And everything I've ever read about it pointed to it being a massacre because there was women and children that were there also, that were killed. And just like there's women and children killed, you know, we don't know the names of all the victims that are dead in Las Vegas. But I imagine there's men and women are killed. I don't know if there's any teenagers there with their parents that got killed. It's too early to know all the names. But I just want to point this out that they're actually going over this. And, you know, the Washington Post put this out, you know, right away. America's deadliest shooting incidents are getting much more deadly. So we're going to politicize, and we're going to continue to politicize this issue of these mass shootings. And right now, I think that's wrong. I think that is totally wrong, what's going on right now. And as far as these mass shootings and stuff like that, it amazes me. It just flat out amazes me how these news outlets and how some of these folks, and I got to say this, they're in the anti-freedom movement. They really are. They're in the anti-freedom movement right now. And that want to take away everybody's freedoms because maybe, like I said, we don't know. We don't know his motives yet. They're still doing a forensic search on his social media, his phones, emails, anything like that to try to figure out his motives because that's what we do. That's what we try to do after these shooting events is we try to figure out a person's motives. So we really don't know. It's mainly a guessing game right now. It's mainly a guessing game right now. But what happens in America? Everything is being politicized. Everything is political. We talked about this last week with the NFL. Everything that under the sun we want to make political. Whether you agree with that or not, that's what's happening. And yes, politics have a huge control over our lives, whether we like it or not. Most people don't like it. I don't like how politics have such a control over my life. I really don't. I think we as individuals need more control over our lives. But to politicize something like this before, you know, like I said, well, there are still people fighting for their lives in the hospital, folks. And we have this group of people out there, these gun control groups out there, that want to bring this up, this narrative up, saying, you know, well, this is a perfect time to talk about gun control. No, it's a perfect time to give, as it were, a collective shoulder to the families who suffered loss or have loved ones in the hospital fighting for their lives. And it's a perfect time to talk about the heart of America. You know, where is our minds and where's our souls and where's our hearts at? Where are they? Like I said, like I started in the monologue, we are living in an age. We are living in an age of a death culture here in America. There's no two ways about it. We live in a death culture with over 60 million babies aborted. Violence. This violence are running rampant in the streets in Chicago. Just so far this year, and I went down through this list, and these are all, I didn't see anything but shootings in there. 519 people have died in Chicago. Have died in Chicago this year alone. Last year it was over 700. 2016, the stat was 751 people lost their lives due to shootings in Chicago. But we do nothing. We do nothing about that. We do nothing about that. They talk about Australia. Oh, you don't hear about mass shootings in Australia because they got rid of guns. Well, wasn't it over in Sweden? Paris? We just talked about Paris, 90-some people. They had gun control laws. It didn't stop. It didn't stop them. And I hope that Australia doesn't experience this type of gun violence in their country. But you can't, honestly, folks, again, it's a heart thing. It's a heart thing, not a gun thing. Just this bottom graph here, it's in relative. The firearm deaths. This is the newest one I could find out of Australia in the short amount of time I had. 2006, 2007, they dropped to 10% of the, or just below 10% of the deaths. Firearms to commit homicide. The use of knives and firearms to commit homicide. So as a percentage of homicide, firearms are 10%, but knives or sharp instruments rose up to 45%. And this is a problem they're having over in the UK too. They can't get a hold of guns, but they can sure go in the kitchen and get a butcher knife out. And a butcher knife that makes no noise. Someone can walk through a crowd and start carving people up, and they have. The recent terrorist attacks over in London proved this. And before anybody knows what's going on, there's a lot of damage can be done just by knife. Just by knife. So again, I'm trying to tell you that it's a heart thing. It's a heart thing, not a head thing. Or not a gun thing, excuse me. It's a heart thing, not a gun thing. And it just amazes me. It does. It amazes me how many folks out there don't get this. That they want to politicize everything. They want to continue to politicize everything. And because of this politicization of our society, we can't have an honest conversation about it. Now, if you want to talk gun control, fine. Let's talk gun control. But first, let's make sure the families out there are being taken care of. There's a need for blood out there. They actually have been talking about how long the lines are for people giving blood, and I think that's fantastic. There's a lot of people in Las Vegas that can give blood. I think that's a good thing they can do. I think people need to stop for a minute today and take a knee and say a prayer to Almighty God for the comfort of the families, either the ones that lost loved ones or the ones that are still in the hospital struggling for their lives. I think as a nation we can do that, and we should do that. I think that's appropriate for us to do that. But let's give the politics a rest when it comes to this. Let's not be opportunists when it comes to this. Far too many people in their politics, they're opportunists. They see an opportunity and they take it, whether that's the right or appropriate time to do so. And to me, and we can. I've had many debates with folks about gun control. And I don't care, and I know this is cliche, but I don't care if you take every gun out of the hands of law-abiding citizens. If you want a gun, you can get it. If you want a gun, you can get it. And you can use it. So in the end, what did your gun control laws do? Didn't stop them gunmen over in Paris. Didn't stop the terrorist attacks, a couple of terrorist attacks there, the Grande concert and London Bridge attacks over in London. Didn't stop them. Again, I got to reiterate this. It's not a gun thing. It's a heart thing. And we have to... we got about 13 minutes left of the show. I just want to spend a little time on this. As Americans, we've left the values that this country was founded on. We have left either by mistrust or neglect, or because it's a concerted effort to try to drive out Christian values out of the hearts and minds of the American citizens. But we have left what actually made America great. And what is that? Individualism, freedom, liberty, love of God, love of country. We've left those values behind us, folks. And I'm not sitting here, in an ivory tower saying I do all these things perfectly. I embrace all these values perfectly, and I, spread all these values perfectly. I don't. I'm a flawed human being just like anybody else out there. I struggle with certain things, certain sins in my lives. The ability sometimes to actually articulate what I'm talking about to other folks. Because, face it, some folks just don't want to hear it. Some folks don't want to hear about God. Some folks don't want to hear about Jesus Christ and the saving grace that He brings to us. And there's some folks out there that want to drive God out of the hearts and minds of every man, woman, and child they can come across. And these same people, I've talked about them before. There's an organization up in Wisconsin, and their name slips my mind right off the top of my head, but they're an atheistic organization, and they have a podcast, and the woman on the podcast actually celebrates abortion. Celebrates it. There are people out there that celebrate abortion. Actors, actresses in Hollywood. We have a whole industry in Planned Parenthood that celebrates abortion because they profit from it. They profit from this. Doctors and nurses who perform these abortions, they're getting paid to do these things. They're profiting from the death of children, unborn children. Our video games. And again, I have no statistics on this, and I honestly have no desire to go and look this up. I just know what I know as far as what we're like a big computer. And a computer, garbage in, garbage out. If you put nothing but garbage code and things, viruses, and allow that kind of stuff into your computer, all you're going to get out of it's garbage. It's not going to work right. You're not going to be able to have it do what you want it to do, and it's going to be good for nothing. And it's the same way with the human mind. If you sit here and play these video games, these violent video games for hours on end, it's got to have an effect on your psyche. It's got to have an effect on your mind. It's got to have an effect on your heart. How you look at your fellow man. It has to. It's not amoral. It has to have an effect. And what it does, it dulls our senses. Whether you go, I'm not saying that it causes folks to go out and commit murder or anything like that, suicide, anything like that. I'm not saying there's a causal effect to that, because honestly I don't know. But what I do know, that it dulls the senses to death and murder, and games like Grand Theft Auto, to assault and battery, to looking at certain folks who have struggles in their lives, and just categorize them, saying, they're in this category here, and we can just beat them up and steal from them, doesn't matter. And you can't tell me that these, and I'm not only putting it on the games, Violent movies. Violent movies. And I'll be the first one to admit I struggle with these things. My wife tells me, she says, Dan, what is it about some of these movies you like? I like the action, and I can't lie to you, I like some of the violence in there. Although I know I have a healthy enough brain to know that it is only Hollywood, but it still affects me. I know it does. World in or God in? It affects me. It affects you. It affects everybody that watches it. So you can't, again, it's a heart thing, not a gun thing. It's a heart thing, not a murder thing. Christ had talked about in his Sermon on the Mount. I thought this was appropriate here. He talks about, let me get over there real quick so I don't mess up the quote here. No, I don't want that. I already have it open. Let's see here. Let's go to the Gospel of Matthew. Let me see here. That was number 6. Let's go to number 5 here. Matthew chapter 5, starting in verse 21. Ye have heard that it was said of those of old, you shall not murder, and whoever murders will be in danger of the judgment. But I say to you, whoever is angry with his brother without cause shall be in danger of judgment, and whoever says to his brother, Raca, shall be in danger of the council. But whoever says, you fool, shall be in danger of hellfire. Therefore you bring your gifts to the altar, and there remember that your brother has something against you. He talks about how to take care of your sins against your brother. But verse 21, you've heard that it said of those of old, you shall not murder, and whoever murders is in danger of judgment. But I say to you that whoever is angry with his brother without cause shall be in danger of the judgment. Before you ever, and let me repeat this, before you ever get to the stage of murdering somebody, unless you're mentally twisted, this guy had to be angry at something. He had to be angry at something and did not take his anger out in an appropriate manner. Somewhere, somehow in this investigation, that's going to come out. You don't just go out one day and murder somebody without something else building up to it. And that's why, I have a lot of people disagree with me on this, mostly in the denominational world. But if you go back to the 10 Commandments, this is exactly what Christ was doing here in the Sermon on the Mount. He was taking some of these commandments and showing the Pharisees and the Sanhedrin and that with these commandments about, well, I've never killed anybody. Yeah, but were you ever angry enough with somebody that you wanted to kill them? See, there's a spiritual aspect behind the 10 Commandments. Always has been. There was when God gave them to Moses twice. But there's always a spiritual aspect. Before you can get to stealing, there has to be something that precedes that builds up to that. That you think that you have more right to somebody else's property than that person that actually owns the property. And that goes right along with covetousness. Covetousness actually leads you to steal. Leads you to do things inappropriate, to actually own something that you really shouldn't own because you didn't do it the right way. Something always leads up to it. Something, I'm telling you, I just know in my heart of hearts that something is going to come out about this, and you can point to this saying, this built up to that. Whatever it was, whether it was envy, covetousness, anger, whatever it was, something built up. You just don't wake up one morning and collect a bunch of guns and go out and start shooting people. This is something that was brewing with this guy for a long time. And like I said, I'm not pointing to specifics. I'm just, again, looking at this as, is this a heart thing or is it a gun thing? Because I'm telling you, the vast majority of Americans out there are not going around, that own guns, are not going around killing people, are not going on these shooting sprees. And the other comments, if you watch, I'm not sharing any of the videos or any of the sounds on here, but it was full automatic weapons fire. If you've ever been around a full automatic weapon when it's been firing, you know exactly what that sounds like. And to me, it did not sound like firecrackers because the way the way it was systematic and just rapid fire right after each other. I know firecrackers mimic, but they're not exact. They're not exact like that. And the automatic weapons that he had, they're very much controlled. You have to have a special license that costs a lot of money to own a fully automatic weapon. You just do. And so, like I said, all this is going to come out in the wash. We'll have updates on the show tomorrow about this. The whole show is not going to be about this tomorrow. We're going to do some updates in the beginning. As I said at the beginning of the show, over the weekend I had a whole other show planned. We were going to talk about Puerto Rico. We were going to talk about the mayor of San Juan, Puerto Rico, and her dissing President Trump. We're going to talk about some of the aid that was already in place going on down there before the lamestream media picked up on this narrative that Trump's not lifting a finger to help Puerto Rico, and that was just not true. Matter of fact, we're going to talk about how some of the unions in Puerto Rico are slowing down some of the supplies coming in. And isn't that fantastic? So tomorrow's show, we're going to be talking more about, we're going to have an update on this, just some things that we know. I've said my piece about this mass shooting, this mass murder that went on, and the bloodbath that happened in Las Vegas, and I believe it to be a heart thing, not a gun thing. So we're going to leave it at that. I don't want to beat that drum too much. And we're going to, like I said, update this tomorrow. And then we're going to talk about Puerto Rico, relief aid, stuff like that. And we're also, if I have time tomorrow, we're going to get into how, and this, I know this isn't going to surprise some of my listeners and some of my longtime listeners, but we're going to get into how the left has to lie to Americans to get their agenda pushed through. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some, especially when it comes in the form of Senate confirmation hearings. We're going to talk about that. And some of the hypocrisy of the left when it comes to the Senate hearings, the confirmation hearings. You can look this up, Blue Chip, in regards to the Senate. Go look it up at your homework. And also be thinking about checks and balances. And I'm going to make some very pointed remarks about this. I talked about it on Facebook yesterday, and I haven't heard back from the folks yet. I don't know if they're still stewing over it or if I stung them so bad there's no response. But I called them out on their lies, and that's, and we have to. We have to call people out on their lies whenever we see them. And I mean, if I'm lying to folks, I want people to call me out on my lies too. I don't want to get away with lies at all. And I want to be truthful with you. It's been the Dan Clements Show. I'm your host, Dan Clements, your Constitution warrior. Remember, if you aim at nothing, you hit it every time. Have a great rest of the day, folks, and God bless. And remember to say a prayer for the families of the victims after the Las Vegas shootings. Have a great rest of the day. We'll see you tomorrow at noon.